Hey guys, welcome back to tech production class. This is week 6. Holy cow. Um, we are starting our new unit of video editing. So we're going to be using DaVinci Resolve as our editing software. And um, let me know after this video how the pacing is for this. Whether you kind of need a little more time to go over this material and really kind of get it, or if you want things to move a little bit faster, let me know. Okay, we are going to dive into a couple things today. First is just getting DaVinci Resolve up and running on your computer, which really shouldn't be too hard. This is a good, professional grade software that somehow has a free version that we get to use, which is awesome. If you haven't already, follow the links that I included in the class assignment, and then follow the steps to load it onto your computer. Once you have that together and you've downloaded the videos that I linked to download and start working with, and the audio file, we're going to start a new project. So what we want to do is open DaVinci Resolve, and it may open you up to your project window like this. It may take you to another window before this and ask you about a database, whether you want to upgrade or create a new database. If it does that, just choose wherever in your computer that you want the database. That is it's DaVinci's collection of all of the files, the render files, the material that we're going to be working on, where you want it to store that. I put it in my project folder for this. You can put it pretty much anywhere you want in your computer. And then it'll take you to this window where it asks you, I have an old project that I was working on but apparently didn't feel like titling. But I'm going to click New Project here and start a new project. What we're going to be working on is the Give to Gallatin opener. So I'm just going to call this G2G opener. There we go. And DaVinci will open this new project for me. And if we're really lucky, nothing crashes at any point during this video. Okay, so this has a lot of different things on the screen, which if you've played around with iMovie, you're used to seeing some of these. But if you haven't worked with a video editor yet, this can be a little intimidating. Kind of like when we first opened up Reaper. There's a lot going on, right? We're going to talk about what each of these parts of the window are, what everything kind of does, and some of it we'll get into right now. Some of it we'll talk about as we get to that in the course of this. And as always, feel free to play around with everything in the software. That's how you learn. That's how I learned to use all of this. I had a project that I wanted to make. Tried out. Actually, DaVinci I've used a little bit. I usually use Final Cut Pro for my projects, but Final Cut Pro is a lot of money. So we're using DaVinci, but DaVinci is a great source. So we have all of this is customizable, by the way. I'm going to use it in its stock format for now. But we have the media pool here, so you can see it says no clips in the media pool. Add clips from media storage to get started. So this is where we're going to see, once we start loading video clips into the program and audio clips and just different assets, we'll see them here in the media pool. So we can drag from there into our timeline to start building our video project. Over on the right, this is our viewer. So once we get media files loaded into here, we'll view whatever we're putting together. I'm gesturing at my screen, like you can see what that is. We'll see the actual video content of either whatever clips we have selected in the media pool, or whatever point of the timeline we're on with our project. It'll show us whatever's selected in this viewer. Now down here, we have our project timeline. So this timeline, we can't really do anything with it because there's nothing here yet. But this is where, just like in Reaper, I'm going to refer to Reaper more than Audacity because Reaper actually has a really nice interface. In Reaper, where we saw the waveforms, we had the pieces of our projects that we were moving around and layering over each other. Our video files and our audio files are going to work a lot like that down in this timeline. So this is that area where we're going to drag our clips and order them, line them up, and do our different things with them. And then I will be totally honest, I'm not completely sure what this secondary bar is up here, but we will find that out as we go. And then there are a ton of different things that we will get to as we go. First, let's get some assets loaded. So I'm going to start off with one video clip. This is Miss Ella's video to it. And this is going to ask me, DaVinci Resolve wants access to the volumes, Jamstack video, blah, blah. We can only access the media from locations listed in the media storage tab for preferences, so I'm going to select that folder. And it should start. There we go. Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to not change the project settings for now. Actually, no, I'm going to change the project settings. We can always adjust that later. That is going to be more in-depth stuff later to kind of look at. So as this starts loading, and we'll start being able to see the content from this video. Hey! So we see that pop up. What's happening right now is, and looking around to see where the progress bar is. I don't see it. But anyway, what's happening right now is DaVinci is analyzing the video for all of the different effects and different meters that it has. So it's copying the information. It's also analyzing the colors in the color curve. It's analyzing the audio. It's analyzing basically everything that it can in this video, so that we can use features like advanced color correction. We can do we can scrub through it seamlessly as we're working, depending on the capabilities of our computers. Scrubbing, by the way, is when you grab the cursor, the time head selector, playhead, and just drag it through the video, and it kind of plays however fast or however slow you want it to. So I'm going to give this a little double click, and you see over here, it pops up in our viewer. So if I scrub back to the beginning, there we go. The cell pops up. So this is what scrubbing is. As I drag it, it plays fast enough to see my dragging and yeah, playing. And if I press spacebar or play, this will start to play through. Okay, so we have our first video loaded. Now, what I also want to do is grab the music that we're going to be syncing all of this up to and load that asset as well. this takes a lot less time to load. So here's our first big thing. For this kind of a video, what we are doing right now is we are going to be taking a bunch of different videos of people dancing to the same song and sync them up together so that everyone is dancing to at the same time to this music. And then we're going to be doing movement and, well, first arranging each of these videos on the screen to be seen all together and be arranged in an artistically pleasing manner. And then we're going to be layering some movements of the videos and some cuts to different sizes, different arrangements of the videos in this project, so that just like in our Gift Gallatin video, like with with the Children of Eden song in the beginning, you saw how different pictures came in at different sizes, like they filled up all of the screen, and then 2 people all of the screen, and then there were like 6 people arranged, and then there was a whole bunch, and then 1. It's going to be a lot like that. Okay, so we have our files loaded. Now, this is something that I like to do when I am arranging a bunch of different videos to one piece of music, is instead of starting with a video file, whatever file you start on the timeline, one file is going to be kind of the anchor. It's what, oh, there we go. Come on, DaVinci. I believe in you, buddy. So this is struggling a little bit. It might be because I'm trying to record a video while I'm working on video. We'll see. Let me do it this way. Create new timeline using selected clips. I love that. Timeline 1, create. There we go. Awesome. Okay. We have our timeline created. We have our audio clip added as the basis for this timeline. So, like I was saying, one clip, one piece of media is going to be the kind of the key, the master for whatever we're building, and everything else is going to attach to that, be anchored off of that. So if we have one clip that's going to stay the same and everything else is adjusting to it, I like to have that be the audio track that I'm matching everything up to. That way, because it's the most clear audio, it's the one thing that I know is constant through everything. If you're doing a production that has one video clip that has the clearest audio, or is the one consistent piece that's going to be going through everything, that's what you want to anchor to. Anyway, we have the audio loaded. Now I'm going to take a video, and I'm going to bring this guy in here and add right here. Might take a second to load. There we go. So you will probably find this happens on your computers too, although depending on the strength of your computer, it won't take anywhere near as long to load as it does mine. This little girl is 7 years old, still going strong. But anyway, so what happens is when we load anything in, DaVinci is, I'm going to almost say Final Cut like a million times through this, but DaVinci is rendering in the background. So it is taking those the information that it had taken before, using that to render a video that is easy to grab and display so that it's not trying to process the full quality of all of the video that's happening. It's not quite as imperative when it's just one video like this, but once we start layering, I think, 9 different videos on top of each other, and it's trying to process all of those things happening at once, having a render file means that it can actually smoothly play through when you want to play it and see what you're doing, rather than trying to process all 9 of those separate files, plus the audio file, plus any effects that we put on it. So that's why it does that processing whenever you drag something on, and that's also something to keep in mind anytime you are adding a new file or working with your program. When it starts to slow down, maybe you might benefit from letting it render for a bit. You can force DaVinci to render everything that you've done so far, which render all savers. So I'm not sure if forcing it would be an important thing. Oh, DaVinci has a multicam? That's awesome. We'll talk about that another time. But, so we have Miss Ella loaded. If we play, right now we're only hearing Miss Ella. Now, why is that? Did it completely take the place of Patrick's video? Okay. Do this. Whoa. There we go. Add track. Okay. DaVinci works. Come on, bud. Come on. Come on. I should be on track 2. Okay. This audio file, I'm going to do this. So, like I may have said before, some of this is going to come down to me learning DaVinci as we go over just video editing in general. Aha! That's interesting. So, what I want to do is add the audio. What I might have to do there we go. Hey, guess what I needed to do was this. So this is the edit screen. That's exactly why. Okay, I figured out our first thing. So what you can't see right now is my second display that is showing my media as well as, and that is, actually, let me do this. Display capture 2. Cancel. Add display oh. this one I want to be display 2. Okay. Hey! So, display capture 2. So this is my secondary display. This is the second screen that popped up when I clicked edit. So let me show you my first screen again. That's this guy. Now, what I did was we were on what was the, oh, come on, back in this program, the cut window, or the cut tool space, workspace. I clicked on the edit workspace, and it brought me to this. So this is what's going to let me edit in the timeline that, honestly, I'm more familiar with. Final Cut doesn't have these type of workspaces that it sets up with, but they can be really, really useful. So what I'm going to do, and I'm not sure how this is going to display if you only have one display that you're working on. Probably it'll be a little more compact, or you might have 2 sets of windows that you'll flip between. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to, this is my second display, and I'm going to grab the audio here. I'm going to bring it over, and I'll show you on this display. I dropped it just below Ella's video here. So what we're looking at is, let's see, this file right here is Ella's video. This green right here is Ella's audio from her video. And then the green down here is the video. You can see the title, Patrick's Teacher GDG Opener Cut, that I just loaded. Now that we have everything in, you can see how I can move this forward and back just like we did with our audio files in Reaper. Same with this one. If I grab and drag either the video or the audio part of Ella's official G2G opener video, it moves both of them. That's because both of them are linked. And you can see that in this little, it looks like 2 chain links that are hooked together. That tells us that those files are linked. We can unlink them if we want to. We don't need to right now, though, but because we're going to use that audio to help line up with our main audio source. And basically the audio from all of these videos, we're just going to use those to help us line everything up time-wise and make sure that it all works together. Anyway, hey, let's finally edit a little bit. Okay, so I have her file in here. Now, if we look through, she dances for a bit. But something went wrong, and she's doing another take. That's outtake number 2. So let's look forward to take number 3. I believe this is the final take. Alright. I just muted our main audio so we can listen to Ella's audio. So it's a really faint, it's only coming through my left ear at least. But it'll at least give us a little help in lining this up. Okay, I'm going to boost this volume a little bit just to help me out. So this is something that you can do. You can adjust the volume levels of any of the audio files that you have in this program just by grabbing the bar right here. You see where my cursor changes from a normal mouse arrow to that up and down white thing. You can drag that down to decrease the volume and bring it up to increase the volume. And you see the volume's measured in decibels like we dealt with in Reaper and Audacity. So I bring it up a little bit. Let's see how that does. That is the one. Okay, so I know that this is where the audio starts. That. So I'm going to cut the video just a little bit short of that so that we're just starting here. We're not dealing with all of the extra stuff at the beginning. So now is where we find out if the tools are anywhere similar. Dynamic trim mode, blade edit mode. Yes, blade is what we'll be using to trim some of these things. Video editors like DaVinci, Resolve, like Final Cut Pro, like iMovie are like Reaper and Logic in that they are non-destructive editors. So remember how Audacity, if you deleted part of a file in Audacity, it's gone. There's no getting it back. These don't work that way at all. These are completely non-destructive. You can cut it in half, you can extend it again, you can paste things together, you can do pretty much whatever you want to these files with impunity. So I'm going to use something called blade mode. So you can select that right here. It looks like a razor blade. Or you can press B, and that enables blade mode. So when I hover over this, you can see that my cursor becomes that blade icon. And I'm going to move it over. So you see, as I'm dragging along, it has its own little playhead that shows me exactly where I am. So what this blade does is, if you haven't guessed it by now, it cuts whatever file I select into two pieces. So I'm going to click right here at the playhead where I want it to cut. And now I have two separate pieces. I knew it was A. It's always A. Selection mode is A. Learning the keystrokes, the shortcuts in whatever program you're working in is, oh, it makes life so much better. Okay, anyway, we now have this video in two pieces. We have the part that we want to use, and we have the offcuts, the beginning outtakes. I'm going to just get rid of those by pressing delete. And I'm going to grab this guy and drag it all the way back to the beginning. Booyah. There we are. There's another way of doing that, and I'm going to show you. So that is, I mean, there are a million ways of doing that. Another thing that we could have done is set the playhead there, grab it from the beginning, and nope, grab from the beginning, and just dragged it back to meet there. And now our beginning is there. Or I could have used ripple editing. There's trim edit mode that allows me to do certain things. But, oh, I guess I don't have ripple edit. Oh my goodness, I can't talk. Okay. I'm not too worried about this right now. Let's just go back to what I had done. Blade, cut, A, U, delete, bring you back to the beginning. Boom. Now we are so much closer, and you can see how the waveforms are starting to line up a little bit. So, as I say, thank you for sticking with me through all of this, and especially my little bits of fumbling through the programs. It is so much fun learning these new programs to teach you guys, because these are good things to just know, and I think it makes you a better operator to learn different forms, different programs. But there's definitely a little bit of like a learning curve for these things. So thank you for sticking with me through these. Okay. So we can see, I'm going to try, yay, zooming makes sense in this program. So I zoomed in, and we can see the beginning of this track and the beginning of our audio track that we're using down here. So I'm going to unmute our audio track. They are still pretty far off from each other. So let's do this. Now, if I try and grab this video file and pull it back further, it's not going to go, because it won't go past the beginning of the project or the timeline. So what I want to do is grab the front of it, bring it back far enough that I have space to line up those, there we go, those waveforms. And then we're going to scroll back here, get a playhead right there. Now what I'm doing is I'm zooming in so that I can get an even finer control of where I put, ideally, I can get even finer control of where I put this. Let's see, markers, that, zoom, snapping. Let's see. If I turn snapping off, will this make it a little smoother? Nope. Okay. Turn snapping back on. Now, we find out what nudge is. Okay, period and comma. So this is something that when you're making really fine adjustments, nudging one way or the other can be really, really helpful. You can move it frame by frame instead of second by second or larger amounts of time. So using period and comma, that wasn't period, I can nudge this. Really? That was a frame? Wow. Okay. Guess it's just going to be like half a frame out of place then. Fine. So, I'm going to scoot this back out. And let's see how this Okay. So, not super easy to watch right now because it hasn't rendered through, and I'll be honest, my machine doesn't have a super strong graphics card to process all of this while it's working. So I'm not going to get a really, really smooth image. Part of that is why, or that is a big part of why I like to line up using the audio tracks, because that way, if the audio is lined up, then the dancer is dancing to their interpretation of that song and that tempo, and if there are adjustments that I need to make, then I can make them after once everyone's kind of together. But for now, this is really, really pretty close, and it's a really good starting point. So what I'm going to do is take this track's audio, and I'm going to mute it. So that way, I don't have that extra sound. All I have is look at that, Batman. Okay, so we have successfully opened DaVinci Resolve, added a video clip and an audio clip, gotten into our editor workspace, cut the video clip down to what we needed, lined it up with our audio, and yeah, we've done all of those things. Okay, I want to do one more thing with this, other than saving. Hey! I found our other copy of the audio. So hey, remember when I was trying to figure out why the two like assets weren't loading over each other, weren't like saving together? It looks like when I loaded the Ella's video, it just pushed Patrick's audio forward, so it added it in line and not in parallel. So I'm going to go over here and just get rid of that extra thing. But that all goes to show when we do this, we really want to add assets in the editor mode once we're because we're not doing a fast cut of this, which I'm assuming is what that cut workspace is more for. Okay, instead of like adding more stuff and doing more things to this video, I want to use just a little more of our time here for the rest of this video, looking through some of the other things that we can do to these videos. And I'm just going to be going through them right now. We'll actually be using them in later project or later classes where we're actually putting multiple videos together, editing them together, doing all of these things. So let's look at, oh, this is going to be fun. Okay, first we have, let me pop this over here. Come on, catch up video. Oh, we're coming. There we go. So we have, perfect. Up in this viewer, and I'm going to see, let's see, Fusion, Color, Fairlight, Deliver. We'll leave this in the edit screen for now. We have the viewer. It's at least a little bit bigger. So there are a few different things we can do in here. In this bottom left-hand corner of this workspace, we have a few options. We have Transform, Crop, Dynamic Zoom, OpenFX Overlay, and Annotations. Let's look at each of these in a row. The ones that we're really going to be using the most are Transform and Crop. Dynamic Zoom is kind of fun. We'll get to that in a sec. So Transform, so this is the window where we do all of the visual things that like move or change that video there, spatially, I guess. So here in Transform, we can make the video smaller, we can make it bigger, we can zoom way in, we can squish it, we can broaden it out, we can also rotate it if we want to, using this. And all of those things we can undo by Command-Z or Apple-Z. Now, another thing that we can do, and this is going to come into play for all of these things. Let me double check and see if you... Yep. Keyframe. Ooh, you have a timeline mode keyframe? Okay, so there are things called keyframes. And this, oh, this is so useful. So keyframes are, they are markers for any changes that we make to the video. So if I'm just working with this entire piece and I want the whole video file, or the whole play of this video right here to be that big, then I can change the whole thing to be that big. But if I want it to start that big, and then between this point in the video and this point in the video grow to be this big, what I'll use is keyframes. So those keyframes, that's what tells the system to start here at this keyframe and take whatever effects, whatever things that I do to it, apply them there. And between this keyframe and the next one, where I may have made any changes, make those changes gradually happen between those two keyframes. So say I have, let's see, add keyframe is, why are you not letting me add a keyframe? Keyframe timeline mode. I'm a little stumped right now. I'll figure out more about them as we go, because sometimes it can be finicky from program to program how to add keyframes and what they do. Not what they do, but how to add them, how to get rid of them. Yep. Okay, I'll figure that out later. But regardless, later, keyframes, we're going to be using them to do any movements of the videos from side to side, up to down, wiping, turning, any of those things that you can do with the video. You can resize it, you can move it from place to place, you can rotate it, and you can tell the program to do that gradually by adding keyframes and setting its different positions that you want it to go from and go to in those keyframes. Okay, that was transform. Let's look at crop. Crop is probably going to just make a lot of sense. You drag a corner, you drag it in, it crops the image so it brings the what you view in by that much. And you can do that in any part of this video. You can't crop outside of what you already have, obviously, because that would be adding stuff that doesn't exist. And you, I believe, should be able to crop in a non-rectangle fashion, but that might take a little more figuring out. Then we have dynamic zoom. So this takes I believe the green is where we start and the red is where we end. I'm not totally sure about that though, so let's find out. Yep. So what happens is, over the course of this entire clip, it starts at the beginning of the clip, zoomed in as far as the green box is, and by the end of the clip, goes all the way out to the edge of the red box. So that's a dynamic zoom. That's like a quick way of doing that slow zooming without adding keyframes. It's just something that often comes up in videos and can make videos a little more interesting, having that just slow movement. So they have a separate function for that. Then we have OpenFX overlay. That's going to be a bunch of different things that you can do with the OpenFX program. We'll look at those later probably. And then annotations, you can add in whatever things you want in the video. Yeah. There. Yep. So those annotations are more for, I believe, more for the purposes of editing than anything. It's possible they may be used for other things. Again, this is a more DaVinci thing, so I don't know as much about that one. It'll be fun to figure out. Okay. Other things that we're looking at. This guy, I believe, is our keystone or keyframe thing. We'll talk about that later. We have our skip back, rewind, or play backwards, stop, play forwards, fast forward, loop. We have our match frame, mark in, mark out. A few things that we probably won't be using as much. Now, let's look at this guy right here. There are a bunch of things over here. These are all video editing details that we can do for this clip, and audio things that we can do to this clip. So audio, we're not going to be doing anything to our videos because we have the audio file that we're working from here. We could adjust the clip's volume, adjust the pan of the clip so that it goes right or left, adjust the pitch, which is actually really cool that you can do that. We have an equalizer here that's just like the equalizer we used in Logic, the equalizer I showed you in, or sorry, that we used in Reaper, that I showed you in Logic, that's in the soundboard, to a slightly lesser extent. It has 4 bands. Under the video, we have a lot of different things we get to do. Composite mode, we won't go into all of these different modes. This changes how, when you have 2 visual things overlaying laid on top of each other, composite mode can change how they interact with each other. Normal means the one that's on top just covers the thing underneath it and you just see the thing on top. Other things like color burn and dodge and darken and divide, and all of those cause the contents of the video to interact with each other in different ways and can get some really cool effects, but it takes a lot more deep diving to get used to that. Opacity just adjusts how opaque the video is. If you want it to be kind of faint over another video, like say you have a video of someone doing something and then you want like a faint image of them just staring off into the distance over in the corner. You lower the opacity of that fainter image, you put it up in the corner, there you go. Memes for days. Transform, all of those things were what was happening when we did those other transformations. Yaw is fun because you get to tilt it forward and back like it's an actual, I don't know, 3D photo that you're holding and tilting around. Anchor point, that's just how far to the side it moves, or the anchor point moves, so you can turn it in different ways and do just make it easier to deal with for yourself. Rotation angle, ta-da, and then position, x-axis, y-axis, and then zoom on the x, x and y, or you can differentiate between them by unlinking and squish or stretch both. Okay. Cropping, same thing that we dealt with already. Dynamic zoom, same thing. Stabilization, same. Stabilization is another really cool thing that we get to use. All of these videos were shot with cameras that were mounted, so we don't really have to worry about stabilization much. But if you have a camera that's kind of held and jostled a little bit or shakes a little bit, you can use the auto stabilization, where it goes into the video file that you have. It uses a lot of that data that it's put together from its ingesting of the videos, and it can auto-stabilize your video. And you can adjust, it has to crop a little bit to get rid of the outer edges so you don't see it like constantly shifting the video to make up for the stabilization, but it can work really well and be really cool. So it's stabilization, retime and scaling, we'll go into that later maybe, and lens correction. That, oh, haha. So lens correction isn't in the unpaid version. I wonder if stabilizing is, it is, wow. I'm impressed. Oh, okay, there we go. That's cool. Ha ha ha, that's why. So it isn't. Okay. Well, that's our first lesson in DaVinci Resolve and using it. Guys, have fun putting this together. We will be adding more videos next time, and once we've lined them up, we'll be starting to move them around and create our looks or our scenes that we want, and then we'll be kind of making some cool stuff from there. Have a great night, have a great day, have a great week, And let me know how this was for you guys. If you want it to move a little bit faster, if you want it to go a little bit slower, if you'd rather I actually look at the camera when I'm talking to you guys instead of like kind of off into the corner. Let me know how it all goes. And